This week I've seen a few YouTubers doing their early predictions for the Premier League. I've been tuning in myself. I enjoy it. I like that kind of content. Fun, laid back, a little discussion around each team in the Premier League, and most of them don't support West Ham, so it's nice to hear what they think about my team as well, getting different perspectives of what's going on at other clubs as well. I've enjoyed it, and some of them have been doing good views, albeit bigger content creators than me. But while listening, I thought, I want to do this. I want to create this content. I want to have my say. So I'm gonna. That's today's video. However, I can't go full on. The league table stuff, you can't do it. You can't predict who's going to finish 4th and 7th and 12th right now. There's still 3 weeks till the Premier League season kicks off, which means 3 more weeks of the transfer window. Look at Alexander Isak right now. That's going to have a humongous say on what Newcastle are going to do next season. It's impossible. Can't do your table predictions. So I'm changing it up. I'm doing a tier list. Let's switch over to the tier list. Here we go. So I've got categories. Got title race, Champions League chance, European race, boring, relegation, battle. A little bit self-explanatory really, but the boring category is just those clubs that I don't think they'll be in a relegation battle, and I don't think they'll be in a European race. They're just going to sit all season, 10th, 11th, 12th, those kind of clubs. So I'm going to have a quick discussion about each team, pop them into the category where I think they will be. And then towards the season kicking off, in 2.5 weeks' time, I'll do my Premier League predictions. I'll put my cojones on the line. You can hold me to it, and then at the end of the season, we'll take a look back and see how wrong I was. Now, before I get into it, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, and also do drop a like on the video as well by clicking that thumbs up button. I'm trying to get 5,000 subscribers, 3 weeks, and I need nearly 450 subscribers. It's a big ask. Please subscribe. Right then, I don't know how to do this, what order to do this in. Did I go with badges? Did I go with categories? Well, let's just do it randomly. We've got Bournemouth first of all, AFC and all that. Let me just drag them. Well, there we go. I didn't mean to do that. I lost it. Boring. I think they're going to be boring. Obviously, they've lost Kirkes. They've lost Howson. I have a little bit of faith in their recruitment. When they didn't have Ryan Christie last season, I thought they suffered massively. So I feel like they still need to do a bit of work in the transfer window. So they haven't done enough to say to me, we're going to improve. We're going to challenge for the European spots. But I don't think I'm looking at them thinking they're going to get dragged into the relegation battle. However, I would have them, if I did do my league table now, I'd have them in the bottom half, but neither 10th than 20th, that's for sure. A boring season for Bournemouth. Arsenal, title race. They weren't really in it last season, were they? But I like the business they've done. I still think they are one player short. I still think they need... If they get Eze, I think they will have had a fantastic window. I think they're just that one player short. But I like the business they've done so far. I think Kepa is a very clever signing. Mosquera's a good signing. I think Norgaard's a very good signing. Gyökeres is good. I think there was better options for Arsenal, but it's still a good signing. I think they are recruiting in the positions that they needed to recruit in. I think that's important. I like what they've done. They've not lost anyone where I think it's going to have a negative impact on the team. I think they'll be in the title race. They have to be in the title race this season. They need Arteta needs silverware. Do I think they'll win the title? Not really. But I expect them to be, come Christmas time, within a handful of points of whoever's top, if it's not them. Aston Villa, a bit of a tricky one. I'm going to put them in the European race because I'm waiting. This transfer window, I'm sort of looking, going, what are you going to do? Because they still need to, to some extent, they need to replace Rashford and Asensio. So what are you going to do? A lot of question marks over some of their more important players, like Martinez, like Ollie Watkins. It just feels a bit uncertain at the minute at Villa Park. So I'm just looking at them from afar, waiting to see them make moves. I'm surprised they haven't, because I don't think they're that far away from a Champions League chance. They took it to, the wire in the Premier League campaign last season. Now, I appreciate people will say they had Champions League football, so it had an impact. I agree. And they've only got Europa League football this season. But I would counter that and say, well, they're going to go further. I think they'll go further in the Europa League than they did in Champions League. So arguably, it might even take more of a toll on their squad this season. I think they might win the Europa League. They should be aiming to. Emery is a European trophy serial winner. I think Villa could do that. But I'm going to put them in the European race. Now, for context, obviously at the minute, the top 4 is Champions League, 5th is Europa League, and that's it. Carabao Cup, Conference League, FA Cup, Europa League. Depending on how the English clubs get on in European football, 5th might be the Champions League, so on. But at the minute, I'm sort of basing this on maybe 5th and 6th is European football, and that's it. Right, you get me though. European race. Brentford. Right, okay, this is where I wish they were a little bit further. I don't know why they've done this in the order they have at the bottom. Anyway, Brentford. I've got a few Brentford subscribers on here, and this is why I feel bad, because I'm going to have to go against what they think about their club, and that always feels wrong. It feels illegal to go against what Brentford fans think about Brentford Football Club, just like it would. I'm going against Leeds fans about Leeds, Fulham fans about Fulham, not so much Man U fans about Man U, but I feel bad for saying this, Brentford fans. And I know you're going to disagree. Be my guest, but I'm going to put you in the relegation battle. It's not saying I think you'll go down. There's going to be more than 3 teams in that bottom category, I promise you. And if you had just lost Mbeumo, fair enough. If you had just lost Thomas Frank, okay. But to lose Mbeumo, Thomas Frank, some of the backroom staff, Norgard, possibly Wissa, that's a lot. That's a lot of changes. And I appreciate you've got Thiago now. You got Hickey back. Rico Henry's back. So there's a lot of good things about Brentford. But I just can't help feel, whilst the club is a well-run club, a well-oiled machine, and Thomas Frank is a cog in the machine, that's my words. When I just did a video about Frank going to Spurs, that's what I said. Frank is a cog in a machine. So you're taking one out and putting the other one in. But am I confident Keith Andrews is the exact same cog as Thomas Frank? No, is the answer. None of us can be. How can you be? You can't. It might be. We'll have to wait and see. But it's not just that. I feel like you're changing a lot of components of the machine at once. And I think that's risky. And I find it hard to not see Brentford being in a relegation battle. However, one thing I do like is Brentford fans are confident they'll be all right this season. I like that. To have that comfort, that confidence in your club despite all these changes, that's fantastic. Don't lose, despite what I'm saying, ignore me. Don't lose that. Don't lose that faith that you've got your club. It's just nice. Brighton, I'm going to put in the European race. They're the club. They're the club I'm watching this season. I'm looking at them thinking they could do something. I don't know what. Haven't decided yet. But I think they could do something. Win the Carabao Cup? Maybe not. But finish 6th or 7th? I think they could. They weren't that far away last season. And that was Herzler's first season there. They had some issues at the club as well. Off the pitch. I feel like they're streamlining the squad to some extent a little bit. I like it. I like Brighton's business that they've done this summer as well. I like how the squad's looking going into the season. I like Herzler. I like what they've done last season. I like a lot about Brighton. I think they're going to have a good season. I feel quite confident Brighton are going to have a good season. They're the team that I'm looking at thinking, I wouldn't call them this surprise package. If Brighton finish 7th, it's not a shock, is it? But I'm looking at them thinking, that's the fan base that can maybe go into this season with a bit of hope that they can have a special season. I'm putting Brighton in the European race. I think they'll be there or thereabouts. Fulham. Boring. Because they are. But as I always say on this channel, boring is not necessarily a bad thing. It's seen as a negative adjective, and I understand why. If you said to me, oh, did you watch the movie? I said, yeah, it was boring. That's not a good review of the movie, right? But when it comes to football, boring is sometimes good. Boring can sometimes be safe, sensible. And I think that's what Fulham are. I think they're boring. And I think they'll have a boring season. I don't think they'll be in the European race. I don't think they'll be in the relegation battle. I think they'll just sit 12th all season. There or thereabouts. They might go up to 9th. They might drop down to 15th. Give it a couple of weeks. I think they'll be back in around 12th again. Boring. But they haven't done any business yet. Once Fulham do some business, my opinion might change. But the fact they've done no business yet, they're boring. Leeds United. Now, I'm going to put them in a relegation battle, but whoa. Just hear me out. Hear me out. I like them. I like the business that they've done so far. I think getting Anton Stacking is a fantastic signing. Underrated. Not had enough credit. Barely seen anyone mention it. That's a 8 out of 10 signing for me. Getting him in. Proper defensive midfielder. Comfortable in possession. Brings that physicality to the Premier League as well. I think that's exactly what they need. That type of signing. I'm a big fan of that signing. Now, the expectation is they're going to sign Perry, they're going to sign Pascio. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Pascio. I don't think you pronounce the X, do you? Pascio. Looks good. I like a lot of the moves Leeds are making. However, it's not like Leeds finished 16th last season and a couple of good signings, they might go up to the top half of the table. They're going from the Championship to the Premier League. The step up is massive. Huge. So for them to bridge the gap, for Leeds to basically go into this category of boring and not in a relegation battle, they'd have to have a significant window, get everything right. And that's just unrealistic, I feel. I think they've still got to get everything right just to have a chance of staying up. And I think, outside of looking in, I'm impressed with what I've seen. And even if they do stay up, and I think they've got every chance to do so, even if they do stay up, I still think they will have been in a relegation battle for the majority of the season. So I'm not saying they're going down. I'm not saying Brentford are going down. I just think that come Christmas time, both of those teams will be in the bottom 6. I'm counting how many teams I've got for this category. Bottom 6 of the Premier League. Liverpool, let's just pop them right up there. I mean, you could just pop them to the left, shall we? Surely they're going to win it again, aren't they? Surely. And here's the big difference. Let me do it now, actually. Let me skip it and put Manchester City there as well. Right, I expect Man City to be back in the title race. I don't think Pep's ever gone 2 seasons without winning a title. I don't think he's gone back-to-back seasons without winning a title yet. But here's the big difference between Liverpool and Man City. Club World Cup. At the end of the season, Liverpool had that Premier League title won. They started skipping training sessions. They were on holiday before the season finished. They were in Dubai. They went for someone's leaving do. Is it Trent? I feel like there was someone else. Whose leaving do was it? Maybe it was Trent's. I don't think it was. Why have I... Anyway, my mind's gone blank. I'm sure there was a leaving do, and they all went somewhere. Flipping Onslaught was in Ibiza before the season had finished, right? They were just on holiday. So they're going to be well rested, Liverpool. They've had a break before the season even finished. Man City, on the other hand, has gone and played the Club World Cup. Now, I expect them to be in the title race. Rodri's back, significant. I like a lot of their business. They feel untrustworthy right now, Manchester City, don't they? Do you know what I mean? There's just something about them that you can't just quite go, yeah, they're going to be all right. But I'm not saying they're going to win the title. I'm saying they're going to be in the title race. And that's the minimum expectation of Manchester City. And I think they will be. I think they'll be in that title race next season. But will Chelsea? This is a happy accident. It flows nicely, doesn't it? I'm going to put them in the Champions League. I don't know if I can quite put them in the title race, but I'll be very, very honest. That win against PSG, it's thrown me. It's thrown me completely. That was one of the most impressive performances I've seen in a long time in football. There's been a lot of them. Last season, you watch a game and think, wow, that was a really good performance by that team over 90 minutes. Crystal Palace against Manchester City, FA Cup final. Crystal Palace against Aston Villa, FA Cup semi-final. Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup. Those individual performances when it matters, incredible. Chelsea beating PSG was up there for me. I was blown away with how good they were, how organised they were, how Maresca got his tactics bang on, how every player did what was instructed perfectly. Those tactics only worked if every player were able to do their job, but they did. Against the team that won the Champions League, the best team, easily the best team, Chelsea beat them comfortably. That performance has really, made me reevaluate. Not enough to put them in the title race. And I'm almost struggling to justify why, actually, they won't be in the title race. There's just something about me that says not quite yet. So I'm going to lead them in the Champions League chance, But I think they're closer to title race than, dropping out of that category. Maybe they're a bit of a Brighton, one to watch this season. Everton, I'm going to pop them in boring. I think they're closer to relegation battle than European race, and I don't think that's offensive. So I'm going to put them in boring for now. Needs a lot of work done in the transfer window. I've just seen a thing from Moyes whilst in America for the summer series. He was on stage and they said he wants 9 players before the window closes. Whether that's 9 in total or 9 in addition to what they've already done, I'm not 100% sure. But bear in mind, they've only done a couple, I think. So there's still at least 7 signings to go. That's a big ask. But they probably need it, Everton. And I understand why. But they've got their striker, they've got Barry. The more I look at him, the more I like him, the more he looks like a David Moyes striker. That's a good signing, but they need more. However, I think they'll be all right next season, Everton. They've done really well under him. The new stadium throws a bit of a curveball, and when you look at other teams moving to stadiums, some have done okay. Brentford, for example, that transition seemed seamless. And then you've got the bad ones, which is West Ham. So it's difficult to really gauge how it's going to work out. But I think they'll be all right. I think Everton will be fine next season. Crystal Palace, I'm going to put in boring as well for now. Still waiting for more business from Crystal Palace. And I think there's still some uncertainty around 1 or 2 key players. Eze, Arsenal, Martin Gay, Newcastle, Liverpool. So it's one of those that if I did this again in September, I might have a different opinion on Crystal Palace. But same with that. You can apply that to every club. I think there's 1 or 2 clubs in particular, Aston Villa as well, where I need to see more before I can really evaluate them. But for now, I feel like they'll be all right. They're capable of winning games. Are they good enough to go challenge for the top 6, 7? To some extent. But I think it would take a remarkable season for them to do that. So I think if Palace just did okay, played average this season, I think they'll be in for a bit of a boring one. But the window goes wrong, starts to get a bit iffy, but they get it right. They get a couple of good additions in, maybe, but I'm not so sure. Obviously, they've got a form of European football to contest with as well, so that's why I'm going to put them in boring. Wolves, they're sort of here for me, just in the middle. I'm going to leave them in relegation battle. Because you can't have every team in boring, can you? Well, I guess you could. But I would suggest that there's only going to be like 3 or 4 teams potentially getting relegated. For Wolves, it's because they've lost Cunha and Knight-Nuri. They're big misses. And I like, from what I've seen from the Club World Cup, I like John Arias. But it's difficult to be confident he's going to come to the Molineux and smash it. Right? It's hard to feel like that. Now, Pereira's done a good job when he went in there. But I always get a bit suspicious when there's purple patches. So when they won 6 games in a row, they won back-to-back. Then they got beat by Man City. No shame in that. But then they didn't win another game, I don't think. So purple patch was fantastic. It was feel-good. It was lovely. But I'm almost like, well, how are Wolves going to be? How's Pereira going to be when the going gets tough? When they go through 4 or 5 games without a win? Then what we're going to see. What they're going to do in the transfer window. So at this minute, I feel like I'm a bit suspicious of Wolves. I like what Pereira's done so far, but I just don't feel like I've got a big enough piece of evidence to judge him, because I don't know him pre-Wolves. It's not like Moyes at Everton. He went in there happy through the season, but because I know Moyes well, I can carry that. West Ham going Potter, I know Potter well, so I can carry that opinion from pre-West Ham to West Ham. I don't have that with Pereira, so I'm still evaluating him as a manager, still evaluating Wolves as a club. So at the minute, I'm going to put them in the relegation battle. I don't think they'll go down. But as I said, this is about who's going to be in and around the bottom. I think they might be in there. Spurs, tricky one to do. I'm going to put them in the European race. I promise you there's a Spurs badge. For those squinting, it's there. It's just an unfortunate colour. It's the Thomas Frank factor. Now, Tottenham have got some good players, okay? It's not like he's gone to a squad who, in my opinion, pre-signings, Tottenham have a much better squad than Man U. Even post-signings, I think you can make a really good case. I haven't really thought about it, but I just rate Cunha and Mbeumo that much. However, certainly before they rocked up at Old Trafford, Tottenham have a much better squad than Man U. Not much between them in the league last season. But I think the talent that Frank's got to work with is incredible. They've got really good players at that club. I don't think it's stupid to suggest that Frank's going to improve the players, improve them as a team, make them better. I think he will have a big impact on them. And I'm not putting them in the top 4 race or anything here. They might do. I'm putting them in the European race, 6th, 7th, 8th, that kind of position in the Premier League next season. Frank feels like a really good manager, a really good appointment for them. And then they've only signed, I think, Kudus, maybe they've signed a defender as well, but they almost could do no signings, and I would expect them to improve a lot just by bringing in Thomas Frank. Yeah, I think Spurs will do all right next season. My team, West Ham, I'm going to put us in the relegation battle. We weren't convincing last season. I think we were lucky that the 3 promoted teams were not good at all. And our position was a bit we finished 14th, which doesn't feel bad. It's obviously not a good season, but doesn't feel like a terrible one. But we massively benefited in 2 of the last 3 games. We played Man U, who had the Europa League final, and then we played Ipswich, who were already down. We won both those games, and we jumped from 17th to 14th. And it almost feels like it was a bit misleading to some extent. It almost suggests that we had a comfortable season. We didn't. We were 17th for a large period of time. Our business hasn't been great so far. Our situation that we find ourselves in hasn't been great so far. I say our business hasn't been great so far. I like the signings we've done in Walker, Peters and Doof. That's good. They're good signings, but we need more. We need more signings. And I'm unconvinced by Graham Potter as a head coach at my club. I hope he does well. We need him to do well, but I remain unconvinced. And I think we'll be in a relegation battle. At this point, I don't think we'll go down. And if we can make a couple of big signings, good signings, my opinion may change and promote us to boring. But at this point today, the 26th of July, I'm a bit worried. Newcastle United, I'll put them in the Champions League race, but they're closer to European race than they are title race, that's for sure. And they're one of these teams with a big question mark because of everything going on with Isak. But hypothetically, if they sold Isak and brought in Wissa and Sesko, I think that would be good signings. They're missing out on a lot of transfer targets, but there's a good squad there to work with. They're just trying to improve a really good squad, a squad that qualified for Champions League football last season. And I'm confident that even though it feels like they're dragging their feet and they've been very underwhelming in transfer window, I'm confident that they will sign players before the end of August. They will bring in 3 or 4 signings. I feel confident. It might be that Isak also leaves, which would not be good. But they're still going to have a midfield 3 of Bruno, Tonali, Yolinton. You're still going to have Hall and Livramento as fullbacks. They're still going to have top-class players in most positions in their starting 11. Alanga's a good signing too. Alanga, Gordon, Isak currently. It's a fantastic attack. So they need to do more work in the window. But I suspect and I expect them to be in a Champions League race. Will they get there? As you can see, I've got 5 in it. With the title race Champions League chance, I've got 5 teams. Well, currently there's only 4 spots, so someone's missing out. At this point, my money would be it's Newcastle that misses out. But this is about expectations for next season. Mine is that Newcastle will be in the Champions League race. Burnley, I'm sorry, I'm putting them in the relegation battle. I feel a bit sorry for them, to be honest with you. And it comes across as really patronising. So if any Burnley fans are watching, I apologise because I appreciate it is patronising, but I just struggle to see them staying up. I think defensively they were brilliant in the Championship, and that suggests that Parker tactically was very good last season, and he was. But I think for the first half of the season, I felt like they were offensively a bit timid, drew a lot of games. And I don't think that's going to happen in the Premier League. I think they'll get punished. I don't think they'll be able to keep many clean sheets in the Premier League either. And they've lost CJ. They're going to lose James Trafford. And Stefan, if they get Stefan, will be a fantastic replacement. But it's still key players of that successful defence that's left. Now, they've signed Esteve to a new contract. That's good news for them. I just don't think they've got a good enough squad to stay up. And I look at Leeds and Sunderland. I like their business. I think they'll do more good business. With Burnley, I don't have that feeling that they're going to do business that says we're going to remain in the Premier League. Don't know. I can't see anything other than them struggling and going straight back down. Sunderland in the relegation battle. But again, you can copy and paste what I said from Leeds. I like them. I like their business. If they can get Granit Xhaka in, that would be a fantastic signing for them. I like their squad that they're working with as well that got promoted. I think their football will suit. I think in the Championship towards the second half of the season, I think a lot of teams were happy to sit back against Sunderland. And I think they struggled as a result. I think they struggled to break teams down. But when they can play counter-attacking football, I think that's when they're at their best. And I think next season in the Premier League, Sunderland are going to be able to play counter-attacking football in the majority of the games. They're going to be able to sit back, soak up the pressure, and try and hit teams on the break. Likewise, Leeds United. And I think when Sunderland were poor last season, it was when they were coming up against those low block sides, and they were perhaps just struggling to find a way through. They've got a lot of young players there that could be good enough for the Premier League, and we're going to find out pretty quickly if they are. Now, one of them they've lost in Bellingham to Dortmund, but there's still a few other players there that, had Sunderland not come up, I think Premier League clubs would have been looking at. Chris Rigg being the best example. So we're going to find out pretty quickly. I think there'll be a relegation battle. I like their transfer business. I think them and Leeds are giving themselves a real good chance of staying up. Still need a bit of work. But even if they do stay up, I still expect them to have been in a relegation battle next season. Nottingham Forest, I'm going to put them in boring. And they're hard to work out, Forest, aren't they? Because let's make no mistake about it, last season they were fantastic. But they dropped off dramatically at the end of the season. Pretty much third all season, then they dropped down to 7th. And a lot of that was put down to fatigue, which I accept. I'm not disputing that. But if that was the reason, well, that was with a Premier League campaign. They've now got a Europa League campaign coming up. More games, lots of travel, less rest. The strain on the squad is going to be even greater than last season. So they're going to need to bulk out the team. They're going to need to improve their squad depth. And I'm not convinced that they're doing that in every position. Now, the window isn't shut yet, so I expect them to do more business. But I'm waiting for them to do more business. So I think the European football is going to have an impact on them. And I think they've got, they signed Williams to a new contract, Nuno to a new contract. They signed a couple of Brazilians in Jair and Igor Jesus, who, by the way, looks fantastic. I really liked him at the Club World Cup. But I don't think they're going to do as good as next season. I don't think they're going to drop off enough to be in a relegation battle. But I think they'll be in the bottom half of the Premier League table next season with a European campaign, which they could look at and think we've got a realistic chance in this. And why not? Why shouldn't they? Forest should be looking to win the Europa League. Palace should be looking to win the Conference League pre-appeal. Villa should be aiming to win the Europa League. Of course they should. They all should be. But I just think it'll take its toll a little bit. And that's why I've got Forest in boring. And Man United I'm going to put in boring as well. I'm not even trolling here or trying to wind people up. If they hadn't signed Mboma and Cunha, if I did this at the start, if everybody had the same squad going into the new season, I'd have them in the relegation battle. I'm not even trying to wind anyone up. But I think Cunha and Mboma are two fantastic signings. Brilliant. Both of them are individually fantastic. And I think that's going to give them a lot of goals. That will yield a lot of points. And I think they'll have a comfortable season next season. Is it enough to get them up competing for the top 6, 7? I don't think so. But I think it's enough to get them up to mid-table in the Premier League and not have to be looking over their shoulder. They'll benefit from not having European football, I think, next season. And they need it. They need as much time as they can get because Amarim's under pressure. Let's make no mistake about it. There's a few managers here right now already. The season's even kicked off. There's a few managers under pressure. I think Amarim's one of them. And I think they'll stick with him as long as they can. Their ambition will be to back him. And I think they'll do all right. And I think he's the one manager that I think could do with as much time on the training ground next season as possible. I understand missing out on European football is a bad thing for Man U. I get it. But I don't think it's a bad thing for Man U. Financially, it is. It's for a club that's so badly run financially, it's a blow. But I do think that if there's any one manager in particular that just will benefit from having that week between games, it's possibly Ruben Amorim. So anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts. Get involved, please, in the comments below. Let me switch back to, you've seen where I put everyone now. Let me switch back to Big Gio. Get your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know where you would put each club. If there's any you massively agree with or disagree with that I've done, let me know. If you support one of these teams, let me know your thoughts on your team as well. I think sometimes you can easily under or over appreciate other clubs. But that's my honest thoughts. That's where I, at this point, what I predict each club to be doing next season in terms of rough league position. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully you've already dropped a like on the video, but if not, please do subscribe if you're new to Tartan Geo. I'll catch up with you in a bit.